Welcome to the conversation. Welcome to our viewers in Nigeria and across Africa and everywhere around the world. Welcome to the conversation on TOS Television Network. And we're reaching you from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. It's a beautiful Wednesday here in Nigeria. And my name is Adesuwalsi.
And I am Sagir Ibrahim. Thank you for joining us on the show.
I know, right?
Hello,
so Merciful is not joining us on the show this morning. I have Sagir here with me. Sagir, it's
Yeah.
good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Look forward to having a very great time here, actually.
Okay, with that, we go straight into the quote of the day. Yes, that was Ralph Waldo Emerson. You know, basically just saying, amongst everything that you need in life, you probably need a friend. Someone who you can just be yourself with, you can be free with. What do you think about that one?
I think Ralph Waldo Emerson was trying to say, we all need that someone, that special someone who gives us that extra push, to achieve our goals in life, actually. I think that's basically what he's trying to say here.
I like the passion with which you say it. It's like you believe so much in it, but it's actually great. Okay, yeah. So we move straight into development across Africa, starting from, Rwanda. So Rwandan President Paul Kagame on Monday said France's acceptance of responsibility in the 1994 genocide marks a big step forward to repairing the relationship between the two countries. And this was after a commission was established by President Emmanuel Macron, which concluded that France bore heavy and overwhelming responsibilities and had been blind to genocide preparations.
I think it's a good thing that the world is generally coming to terms with the facts that this genocide actually happened.
Yes.
And, France coming to say, yes, we agree that,
played a huge part in it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And we were aware that there was going to be a genocide,
yeah.
and we turned a blind eye because,
Yeah.
it led to a death of close to 800 to 1 million.
Almost a million
Tutsi
persons, yes.
Exactly. So I think it's a step in the right direction to say, okay, look, we admit our wrongs and we're looking forward to mending the future, actually. Exactly. And then we go to South Africa here, where they say South Africa failed in tackling domestic violence, according to UN experts. The United Nations Women's Rights Committee has found that South Africa's low levels of prosecution and conviction in domestic violence cases has exposed survivors to repeated abuses and also reported in the violation of women's fundamental rights. And this is according to official figures, which shows that out of 143,824 requests for protection orders in 2018 to 2019, only a meager 22,211 were granted. And in many cases, the prosecution order just called for the abuser to sleep in a different room in the same house, the report added.
Can you imagine that? I tell you, and South Africa is one of the countries in Africa that has one of the highest cases of domestic abuses and
exactly, and sexual harassment.
Exactly.
I think there's a long way that they still need to go, to make sure that these laws are put in place to ensure that those who are perpetrators of acts of sexual and gender-based violence are made an example out of. Because it's just
how do you tell somebody, okay, look, let's just solve it
over
like
143,000 persons and just 22,000 cases where
imagine
it's quite.
So basically,
something.
I come to you and tell you, look, this person is trying to set me on fire. And you're like, okay, don't worry, just sleep in another room.
Yeah, just
wow.
It's unfortunate anyway, and quite funny.
All right, so we move over to Burundi, where the entire village in the west of Bujumbura, Burundi, have been deluged after torrential rains made water bodies burst their banks, resulting in the displacement of residents, with them barely able to save anything. Those most affected are the poor, low-lying neighborhoods with non-existent proper drainage infrastructure and roads. That's quite sad, the full displacement.
I'm going to say this. A lot of African countries, especially those on the West African and East African banks, are prone to flooding.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, it's also quite unfortunate because there are always these meteorological agencies who determine and predict annual rainfall, and I believe these warnings are always put in place, and the government is always informed that look, this is going to happen. There's a tendency that these banks are going to be overflooded at so time.
Yeah.
So these checks are supposed to be put in place to ensure that this doesn't happen, or when it does, you know, people and casualties are not going to be recorded. But it's always unfortunate when you see, despite all of these checks being put in place, both by international and local experts, we still hear cases of flooding, lives lost, and people being missing in their hundreds, you know. Every year, it happens every year. And I mean, Burundi's case is just another unfortunate example.
I was going to say that.
Actually. We go to Mali here, where they said they will be adopting a broad-based transitional government set to be formed in Mali. Now, the army-dominated interim government of Mali is set to form a new broad-based cabinet, and the Malian Prime Minister, Mokhtar Ouane, is to be in charge of the reshuffling. A constitutional referendum is, however, expected to be held on October 31st, with elections to follow in February 2022, according to the interim government. I mean, it's a good thing.
It's about time,
exactly.
It's about that time.
The uprising that happened last August with the coup and all of that is finally, you know, coming to rest. Finally, you know, we see we're going to see a situation where the nation now transitions from the military government back to democracy. And it's also a thing of joy to see that our own former president, Goodluck Jonathan, is the one heading, you know, the negotiation talks, and to see the level of progress that has been reached to this extent, it's also quite impressive. I mean, good news. I mean, hopefully by next year.
They get to breathe. They get to breathe at this point, right? Okay, so with that, we bring you COVID-19 updates from across Africa.
North to South Africa, East to West Africa, TOS TV Network is your digital-first Pan-African news network, bringing you news from across the continent. Visit our website www.tostvnetwork.com and follow us on social media at TOS TV Network on Instagram, Facebook.
Welcome back. We go straight to newspaper headlines, and we start with the Blueprint newspaper. And on the very top of the Blueprint newspaper this morning, 2021 budget deficit. Buhari seeks NAS nod to raise 2.343 trillion naira loans, and that could be found on page 6 of Blueprint newspaper this morning. And by the very right of the same headline, we see Shell says Nigeria oil not compatible with green strategy. And Okowa fires 29 commissioners, COS, SSGs, others, and that can also be found on page 5 of the Blueprint newspaper. And the very, obvious banner headline there, as workers' protest thickens in Kaduna, El-Rufai declares Waba, others wanted, sacks nurses, CASU lecturers, and other riders underneath. Thugs attack workers as Waba says, we're on top of our game. Governor orders fresh recruitment of nurses. Negotiate with workers, APC governors, ACF begs El-Rufai. Intervene or we shut down, Nupeng tells federal government. Electricity workers threaten nationwide strike. And all this can be found on page 6 of the Blueprint newspaper this morning. And you could also see pictures of the ongoing strike action in Kaduna. Kaduna State, which is also captured on the Blueprint newspaper. And just beneath all of the pictures, we see insecurity. IGP flags off Operation Restore Peace in Southeast. And below on the Blueprint newspaper, Ayade bows to pressure, reabsorbs sacked Cross River magistrates, and that could be found on page 8 of Blueprint newspaper. NIS suspends passport issuance till May ending, and that could be found on page 13. And Crown Flour Mill restates commitments to bolster productivity employment. That could also be found on page 23 of the Blueprint newspaper. And finally, Aero Aircraft returns, pilot acted professionally, NCAA declares, and that could be found on page 23 of the Blueprint newspaper this morning.
Away from the Blueprint to the Daily Trust newspaper, starting from the very top as well. Plane conveying Emir of Kano, others makes emergency landing. You can find that story on page 44. Beside that headline, judge kidnapped inside Katsina court. You can find that one on page 6. And beside that, two soldiers killed as bandits abduct expatriate in Niger. That's on page 6. And then on the banner headline on the Daily Trust newspaper is about Kaduna, the Kaduna ongoing protest in Kaduna. It says Kaduna shut down, federal government intervenes as El-Rufai Labour stick to their guns. 4 riders under the headline. The first one says, Governor declares NLC president wanted, sack nurses. Come and arrest me, Waba dares. That's the NLC president. He has no powers to declare anyone wanted. That's coming from Femi Falana. Resolve impasse governors, PDP, ACF. And then just underneath the picture of the day where we see, pictures of the ongoing strike actions in Kaduna State. Boko Haram exploiting pandemic to push back into Nigeria. That's coming from President Muhammadu Buhari. You can read up on that on page 44 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Alleged 10 billion naira fraud. EFCC invites PDP officials. 6-year-old raped to death in Kaduna. And the last headline on the Daily Trust newspaper says, presence of strange helicopter raises concerns in Niger villages. All of these are inside the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
And on the Daily Times newspaper this morning, we start from the very top. External borrowing. Buhari writes National Assembly requires 2.343 trillion naira. That could be found on page 5 of the Daily Times newspaper. And the obvious headline, the banner headline on the Daily Times newspaper this morning, Senate cautions Buhari on appointments. That could be found on page 2 of the Daily Times newspaper. And we see a very obvious picture, and underneath the picture, the caption states, a cross-section of high-capacity buses, largely to replace commercial motorcycles, Okadas, and with life insurance for passengers and drivers, launched by Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu in Lagos State on Tuesday. And underneath that picture, Autonomy Okowa announces full autonomy for Delta Judiciary, dissolves cabinet. And right beside that, dismissal. El-Rufai dismisses all nurses below grade level 14 over strike. And after that, passport. NIS suspends receiving processing fresh passport applications till June. All of these stories could be found on the Daily Times newspaper today.
And on the Business Day newspaper, at the very top of the Business Day has the Business Day Market Monitor, if you're interested in, what the foreign exchange market is talking about. And then just the banner headline on the Business Day newspaper says, pension contributors navigate maze of PFAs for better returns. Beside that one, Nollywood produces highest movies in 4 years despite COVID-19. That story is continued on page 38. And then inside the Daily Trust, the Business Day, I beg your pardon, inside the Business Day newspaper, Fola Adeola to speak at CFA Society's maiden quarterly leadership series. And that is on page 38 of the Business Day newspaper.
And finally, News Direct, the Nigerian News Direct newspaper, which will be the last newspaper for the newspaper segment, headline segment. Firstly, Agric-Bora scheme. Emefiele denies discrimination against farmers in South. And that story could be found on page 15 of the News Direct newspaper. And immediately beside that, excitement heralds the launch of Polaris Bank's digital bank, VULTE, Vault. Africa Day, Kagame, Okonjo-Iweala, others set for UBA Africa conversation. That story could be found on page 15 of the Nigerian News Direct newspaper. And the banner headline on the Nigerian News Direct newspaper this morning, disquiet over FG's 2.34 trillion naira external loan request. And there's a single rider under that story, request captured in 2020 2021 budget, and that is by the Debt Management Office. And Lagos government unveils 500 minibuses for intra-city transportation, and underneath that, NCC resolves 99.2% of telecom consumer complaints in first quarter of 2021. Nasarawa signed 6 billion naira tripartite agreement for provision of 2,000 buses. And besides that headline is a picture of the Jigawa State Governor, Mohammed Badr Abubakar, Kebbi State Governor, Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, Ekiti State Governor, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, Osun State Governor, Alhaji Gboyega Oyetola, and the Ondo State Governor, Arakunrin Rotimi Akeredolu, SAN, at the launch of the Ekiti Rice Pyramid Project and the flag-off of the 2021 wet season rice cultivation in Ado Ekiti on Tuesday. And underneath that, we also see pictures of the MD of Rock Center Chairman Polaris Bank, Mr. Ayotunde Koka, Polaris Bank Acting Managing Director and CEO, Mr. Mohammed K. Ahmed, Chief Digital Officer of Polaris Bank, Mr. Innocent C. Ike, and Mr. Dele Adeyinka at the former launch of the Vault Polaris Digital Bank in Lagos on Tuesday. And besides that is a picture of the Nasarawa State Governor, Engineer Abdullahi Sule, presenting a vehicle key to the J. Migli, His Royal Highness Dr. Ayuba Agudu Audu. All that can be found on the Nigerian News Direct newspaper this morning.
All right, that's it for, newspaper headlines on The Conversation today. We're going to break now, and when we come back, I'll be taking you through what is trending on social media. Welcome back. It's still The Conversation on TOS Television Network, and it's about that time where I take you through what is trending on social media. So basically, you already know that I'm going to tell you, when talking about social media, that you should follow TOS TV Network across all social media platforms. That's TOS TV Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and also subscribe to TOS TV Network on YouTube so you're not left out of amazing content. Also, you can stream the conversation and other programs on www.tostvnetwork.com. Now, back into what has been trending on social media in the last 24 hours. So the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Ayuba Wabba, that's the hashtag Ayuba Wabba, has been trending on social media. Now, if you followed us through, the newspaper headlines, you'd have heard us talk about Kaduna State Governor El Rufai declaring Ayuba Wabba wanted, for economic sabotage, because of the ongoing strike action and protest actions going on in Kaduna State at this point. So I'm going to read out a few tweets to that regard, because that has caused some kind of conversation on social media. So the first tweet is from @Onkwajala, and he says, Nasir El Rufai has declared Ayuba Wabba and other NLC members wanted because they protested against unlawful sacking of workers in Kaduna. When El Rufai protested during GEJ's administration, he was exercising his human rights. When NLC protested in Kaduna, El Rufai declared him wanted. This is from Ayemu Juba, and she says, El Rufai refused to negotiate with bandits to free those his incompetence couldn't secure, but placing a bounty on Ayuba Wabba and other NLC members for leading Kaduna workers on peaceful protests, that's full-fledged insanity. It's _Shemek says, it's funny how NAE, that's Nasir El Rufai, thinks he can easily get Ayuba Wabba arrested. He needs to get back to history. The worst was a dissolvement during military government. Oh, my bad, he's a state governor, not a president. I think that's been sarcastic. And then the last one is from @Fiz_Toda. Ayuba Wabba fully deserves whatever rubbish he's getting from El Rufai. He's been a puppet to the government for so long. Sage, I want to hear your take on this one. What do you think? Because I do know that, Femi Falana has said that he has no right to actually declare Ayuba Waba wanted. But he says economic sabotage, he should be arrested. What do you think?
What I can say is this. You can't prevent workers from protesting.
Okay.
Yes, that is basically what I can say.
Okay.
And another thing, I don't know if the law stipulates or there's a provision in the law that allows a state governor to declare the chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress, the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress wanted. For doing a protest or for engaging or organizing a protest or for leading a protest. I mean against what he feels is injustice to Nigerian workers.
Yes.
So if it simply means if the governor of a state could declare the president of the nation's labor union wanted, we shouldn't be surprised if one day maybe a president of a particular country declares the president of its labor union wanted also for going on a peaceful protest or for protesting because of what they claim is injustices against workers in the country. That's basically it for me.
Personally, I think they should just have a conversation. They should just talk about it. And I know we say dialogue doesn't work. It's in a lot of situations.
I was going to say that.
I know we say that.
At what point?
They probably have been having.
At what point does talking become enough and action come to play? Because that's what I mean. From the newspaper headlines we saw pictures of people who they claim were sponsored thugs sent to disrupt this protest. I mean, we saw them with woods, saw them with bottles and other sort of, light weapons like knives and the likes of that, and it was also on the news, and the governor came out to say, look, what you're doing is illegal. Yeah. You shouldn't protest. And I mean, it's an open secret that protesting, it's part of the rights of workers.
Yes,
definitely.
Of Nigerians, basically. You can have a peaceful protest. So basically, what I just think should happen at this point is we don't want it to escalate to the point where we have casualties and all of that. And then there's also the ripple effect on the economy and then people of
Union is already involved.
Exactly. So basically, I just think we should just come back to, just dialogue and so that we can settle all of this. So people, maybe get back to work and all of that. Okay, that's it for what's trending with social media this morning. We'll go on a break now. When we come back, we'll be bringing you the big story.
Welcome back. It's still the conversation on your digital first Pan-African News Network, TOS Television. And do remember that you could follow us and connect with us on our social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you could also read our content on our website at www.tostvnetwork.com and also watch some of our videos on YouTube at TOS TV Network. It is the big story, and the focus of today's big story is women in agriculture, and we tend to look at how empowering women farmers in agriculture and trying to focus on empowering women farmers in via financial inclusion. Today we will be focusing on how the Nigerian government as well as private sector individuals could play their part to ensure that there's an inclusion of more women, in agriculture, because what we've noticed is that going forward in the past decade or so, there's just been a lot of women farming, but then again, they're just few women who are successful farmers. Yeah. So most of these women are actually just small-scale women farmers, and none of them do the big things, commercial agriculture. Joining us to talk more about this is the FCT Secretary of the Small Scale Women Farmers Organization in Nigeria, SWOFON, Mrs. Mercy Nana. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Yes, ma'am. I will go straight into it. First of all, I would like to ask, do you believe there is this gap, a financial gap between male and female farmers, such that when applying for financial aid, the males are more favored than the women?
Very well. There have been, and there is still serious gap between the male counterparts and the female counterparts in the area of agriculture, especially when you look at the financing aspects of it. So the fact that women does a lot of job in agricultural sector, we do about 70 or above 70% workforce in agriculture, yet we are not being able to access finance because of some of the constraints, the demands, the requirements. In some communities, women do not have access to land, to own and control land. You can actually rent, and this land is somehow a collateral for you to get access to loan or financial assistance. So you must have something substantial before you can actually talk about getting financial assistance from the government, which is actually at the beck and call of the men. So the men always have the advantage more as a result of meeting of the requirements. And the women, you know, before now have not always been in the forefront. They will always tell you, sit down here, do the menial job,
yes, exactly.
do the unpaid job.
Yes.
But the truth is, these women who they said they are doing menial jobs actually contribute the major factors to the sector.
Okay.
Because you cannot actually process if somebody have not actually done the primary sector, and the primary sector is where the women lies most. And I want to actually say it categorically that if these women who does over 70% in this sector is being financially empowered, the sector will have nothing to worry about.
Okay,
because it's already covered.
So you're basically saying, or you agree that the financial constraints, you know, women have accessing agricultural loans and grants or financial aid basically hampers on more women involvement in the agricultural sector.
Very well.
Okay.
It is a serious constraint. Agriculture, you know, is innovative.
Yes.
Is cost. The cost implication is high,
yeah.
Because you need to hire labor, you need to pay for rent or hire a land, you need to prepare the land, you need to do a lot of job. So it's a stage-by-stage process that also requires a lot of capital. Are you into crop farming? It's a stage-by-stage. You must clear the land. Inputs. You don't just go to market and buy inputs, else you buy grain.
Yes.
So, and for you to get a good seed, you must not repeat, unlike before our fathers, when they harvest, they keep some to replant it the subsequent years. But now, the best way to do it is to get a maximum year. Every year you buy a new seed.
All right. Ma, just quickly, let me ask. You spoke about a lot of statistics. You stated that about 70% of women do the menial jobs.
Part,
yeah, do from the clearing to the tilling and all of that.
Even the marketing.
Including the marketing.
Yes.
Now, that is quite a number.
Yeah.
So I would want to ask, what can be done to ensure that more women are included financially? Because we can see that when it comes to manpower, there's already a very, very high percentage of women doing the manpower work. What can be done to ensure that these women are not just doing the work, but are doing the work, are seen doing the work, and are also reaping the dividends of doing the work? What can be done?
Before I attend to this question, first I want to thank the Ministry of Agriculture, especially the Agenda Desk. Oh, the minister did a wonderful job, plus or minus last month. Yes, last month, 15, 16 or 17, thereabouts. He did a flag off of inputs. He actually touched the life of women. Let's replicate such events. Our organization was actually in the forefront of this event, where he did the flag off, he actually touched lives. If there is such platform where the gender desk will also be used to touch them financially. Inputs have been given, yes, but we also need money to do the clearing of the land. We need money to do the planting. We need money to do the weeding and all that. If you can actually cover this gap, use the gender desk. The truth is that the government will always say there is finance on the air.
Yes.
But how many women get access to this finance is always a problem. Reason is this: requirement is always very lengthy.
Can you give us some of those requirements?
One, you must have a landed property. Some time ago they said you must have a valuable jewelry.
For real?
Yeah, some of us do not have gold. I in person, I do not have gold.
But why?
So will you take this one? No.
Why should that be a requirement?
That's
really?
quite a requirement.
No, the truth is this is the business.
Okay.
For you to give out your money, you must see
That's
that you will actually get your money back.
Yeah, okay.
So it's a means of ensuring that this money will actually come back to them.
Yes, okay.
So it's not actually a bad ideology, but what we are saying too is that they should do it in such a way that to the women aspect of it, it should be softer.
Okay.
And that is why I'm employing the gender desk of the Ministry of Agriculture. Let's see a way to modelize this thing, that when it is to deal with the women, let it be softer so that women can actually access. And another thing is, except you are among a group of people, you are in a cluster as a woman, you might actually do not get information.
Really?
If you look at it, and that is why sometimes I will tell people I'm a farmer, they will look at me and they will laugh.
Because you don't look like a farmer. You don't have
Do you know why?
privilege.
Do you know why? Every Nigerian have actually told our mind that every farmer is an illiterate.
Yes.
Every farmer is that timid person.
Yes.
Every farmer is that, those ones have been forgotten. Yeah. Now, in some to some extent, these are true. But the truth is this. So about 50% of our women farmers lack information. So, except you are in a cluster, like us, we always do step-down training to our women in communities. When you go out for a training, you come back, you step down the trainings. That is the only way they get information. Except that they might not even know that there is something on the air and it is exhausted. Okay. And two, there is this first come, first serve system in Nigeria. And if you look at that system, you discover that definitely it will still favor the men. Because they will always, in the morning, back up, off they go. Yeah. But the women must ensure that even that man that is going out, he takes care of the man. The children that will go to school, he take care of the children. He will tidy the home before he will now think of going out. As a result, that woman might not be able to get there on time and get access to what they're talking about. So it's another constraint. So I am of the opinion that this desk, it is a vital desk in the Ministry of Agriculture, the gender desk. And the woman there is doing a great job. I thank you very much. She's always a good mother to the women. If they should employ that desk to ensure that whatever they are bringing for the women farmers, be it finance, whatever they are bringing for farmers, let them streamline these things. That 40% is for the women, 60% is for the men. What this means is that when a man, when you exhaust your own 60%, yours is finished. The pace the woman comes to take it, she will actually meet hers.
Great.
And it will go a long way to solve some of these issues.
So in one word before we wrap up, because we're actually out of time. So if we have all of these factors in place, you were saying that we would have more women, in commercialized agriculture, visibly involved, and then on a larger scale too.
Very well.
Okay.
There are a lot of women involved in agriculture, doing good in agriculture, but the constraint there is capacity. Okay, personally, I have a poultry farm. I have gotten a land, but I have a serious issue to put a structure in that land. For over 4 months, that place has been like that. But if I have the finance, put the structure does not even take, it won't take up to 500,000. You put the structure, off you go, busy your own business. Many women are suffering the same. I only use myself because this is me. Yes. There are other women suffering the same. One of my women said, the place I got to do a goosey farm, the tractor to turn it, I don't have the money. So she's doing it now gradually. So what is the outcome? A tractor can turn up to 10 hectares a day. So how long we should do it and what quantity we should be able to do?
I say that.
So capital is a big issue.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
It was such a pleasure to have you. And thank you guys for joining us on the conversation this morning. Do not forget the conversation comes to you every weekday. That's Monday to Friday here on TOS Television Network. And don't forget to subscribe to TOS TV Network on YouTube and follow us across all social media platforms. That's TOS TV Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And also you can watch the conversation on www.tostvnetwork.com. My name is Ade Suwasuyi.
And I am Sagir Ibrahim. Thank you so much for watching.